Chapter 6. Nala. Nala stood at the water's edge, quietly lapping at the communal water hole her pride shared with a number of other animals that resided in this area of the savannah. A family of giraffes drank just to her right, while a pack of okapis stood on the opposite bank across from her. There was an unspoken peace alliance between those who used this waterhole. Nala had never once witnessed a lioness attack another animal while here. The waterhole had become a place of refuge these past months, its peacefulness providing much-needed comfort. She usually enjoyed the feel of the moist earth beneath her paws, but she feared nothing would be able to lift her spirits today. A heavy cloud had fallen over Pride Rock after her mother and Sarabi's argument last night. There were subdued murmurs among the lionesses, but none of the typical light-hearted chatter she was accustomed to when visiting the waterhole. Guilt sat in the pit of Nala's stomach like spoiled gazelle meat. She was the reason for the shroud of unease that blanketed their home. If she had not asked Sarabi to intervene on her behalf, her mother would have never lashed out at her. Nala still could not believe her mother had spoken to their queen in such a way. Sarabi was more than just her queen. She was her mother's best friend, and the hurtful words she had said. Nala wished she could go back in time so that she could prevent her mother from ever saying such ugly things. But if she could go back in time, she would go back 6 months to when all their troubles began. She would stop Simba and Mufasa from traveling to the gorge. She would stop the wildebeests from launching their deadly stampede. She would change it all. As she drank more water, Nala felt the fur on the back of her neck rise with a sense of alarm. She whipped around to find Ola and Kahina standing a few meters behind her. They stared at her with matching looks of disgust. "What do you want?" Nala asked. "First you ruined the hunting games, and now you have ruined the entire pride," Ola said. "We all know that Sarabi and Serafina aren't talking because of you." "It's not my fault," Nala said, even though that was untrue. All of this was her fault. "My mother said Sarabi has not been this sad since she lost Simba," Kahina said. Nala winced. The words cut deep because she knew how devastating losing Simba had been for all of them, especially his mother. "I just wanted her to talk to my mother. I thought she could help," Nala whispered. "Well, they talked," Ola said, "and a lot of good that did. Leave her alone." They all looked over to where the voice had come from. It was Puleng. The younger cub walked over to stand at Nala's side. "You taunted her because she does not know how to hunt, and now you taunt her for trying to change things so she can learn to hunt?" Nala thought Sarabi could make her mother see reason. "Why are you defending her?" Ola asked. "Yeah, she's older than you. Older cubs are supposed to stick up for younger cubs, not the other way around," Kahina said. That is what they had all been taught from a young age. As each new cub was born into their pride, it was the job of the older cubs to protect the younglings. Nala appreciated Puleng's willingness to stand up for her, but it would only bring more ridicule on her head. "I don't need you to defend me," she told her. Confused hurt flashed in the younger cub's eyes. Just then, a lioness-shaped shadow fell over them. Nala looked up into her mother's piercing green eyes. "Come with me, Nala. It is time for your bath," her mother said. She glanced at the other cubs. "Ola, Kahina, Puleng, go to your mothers. They are ready to bathe you as well." Nala walked closely behind Serafina, following her to the patch of lemongrass on the opposite side of the waterhole, where the other lionesses lounged in a loose circle. Her throat tightened when her mother settled well away from where Sarabi sat with her sister, Keto. Nala's chest tightened with despair. The 3 lionesses always sat together while at the waterhole, but now, because of her, her mother had isolated herself from them. "Mom," Nala started, but then she stopped. What could she say? That she was sorry? Nala realized that, despite the fallout from last night's argument, she was not sorry she had asked Sarabi to intervene on her behalf. She had been desperate, and now she was even more desperate to find a solution to what had become an even more dire situation. "It is time for your baths," Serafina repeated, then began licking Nala's fur. Nala noticed the other cubs going off to play once they were done with their baths, but she didn't bother to ask. Even if her mother gave her permission to join them, she would only be subjecting herself to more ridicule. Maybe she and Kamari could play once he returned to Pride Rock. His mother had taken him out for a pouncing lesson. Just as Nala closed her eyes for a nap, she heard the rumbling of increasingly loud whispers traveling among the gathered lionesses. News. A sighting. Rafiki sent word. Nala felt her mother stiffen at the mention of the beloved Madril, who had served as the Pride's healer for years. Rafiki had departed Pride Rock shortly after they'd lost Simba and Mufasa, and he had not been heard from since. Nala strained to hear what was being said, but the lionesses were doing that thing they did when they thought whatever was being discussed was too much for the cubs to deal with. Speaking in hushed tones, several of them glanced her way. Their furtive, concerned looks confirmed what Nala had already suspected. It was news. Big news. Important news. When she saw the dwarf mongoose, who was known to be one of the scouting animals Sarabi had dispatched to gather information from around the savannah and beyond, any doubts were erased. He stood on a boulder so that he could look their queen directly in the eye as he imparted whatever news he saw he'd brought back. By the look of things, it was serious. "What could it be?" Foyola asked loud enough for Nala to hear. "Do you really think there has been a sighting?" Sefu added. Once again, Nala felt her mother stiffen. "It has been quite some time since we have heard anything," Foyola murmured. "At least 4 weeks." "Longer," Sefu said. "The last time we got word of Simba being seen, it was just after the swallows began their migration north." Thandi, who had been close enough to Sarabi to hear what the mongoose was saying, approached them. "Thandi, what is going on?" Sefu asked. "There is news of another sighting," she confirmed. "Of course, it is difficult to say if it is Simba, but the mongoose also reports that Rafiki had a vision." All the lionesses, including Nala's mother, stood at this. Rafiki's visions were not to be disputed. They always confirmed or revealed something. "What did he see?" Serafina asked. As far as Nala knew, this was the first time her mother had spoken to any of the lionesses since last night. Sefu, Thandi, and Foyola all stared at her for several moments before Thandi spoke. "He had a vision of Simba with 2 others. In a cave," she said. One figure was stout and the other was slim.